In this video, we're going to be talking about the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. This act was last amended in 2006. It contains 6 schedules and it laid down the provisions for setting up of national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and other protected areas. Salient features of the act. This particular act provides for the formation of wildlife advisory boards, wildlife wardens, central zoo authority, and specifies their powers and duties, etc. All these bodies are particularly for the protection of wildlife which did not exist till then. It did help India become a party to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna. This is also known as CITES. It is a multilateral treaty with the objective of protecting endangered animals and plants. It is also known as the Washington Convention and was adopted as a result of meeting of IUCN members. For the first time, through this act, a comprehensive list of the endangered wildlife of the country was prepared. The wildlife of the country was categorized into different schedules based on the level of threat they are facing. This is the most important characteristic or the salient feature of this law. The Act prohibited the hunting and trading of endangered species. The Act provides for license for the sale, transfer, and possession of some wildlife species as well. It provides for the establishment of wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, etc., about which we're going to be talking about in the further slides. This act created 6 schedules which gave varying degrees of protection to classes of flora and fauna, that is, the animals and the plants of the country. The National Board for Wildlife was constituted as a statutory organization. Now, this is an advisory board which gives advice to the central government on issues of wildlife conservation in India. It is also the apex body to review and approve all matters related to wildlife, projects of national parks, sanctuaries, etc. The chief function of this particular board is the protection and conservation of wildlife and forests. It's chaired by the Prime Minister. The Act also provided for the establishment of National Tiger Conservation Authority. This again is a statutory body of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change with an overall supervisory coordination part performing capacities as given in the Act. As a large repository of habitats for tigers, for India, this particular establishment is of prime importance. Now we will be talking about how the wildlife of India has been characterized according to this act. In Schedule 1, the wildlife of India, which is endangered species, has been included. Hurting them, hunting them, or trading them will all be faced with harsh imprisonment. For example, tiger, black buck, Himalayan brown bear, etc. The animals included in Schedule 1 is accorded the highest degree of protection. Schedule 2. These are not endangered, but these animals are under threat, and hunting them and trading them is absolutely not allowed. And if someone is caught harming these animals in the Schedule 2, they will also be met with harsh penalty. Example of this particular animals in Schedule 2 are Assamese macaque, Bengal hornbill langur, etc. In Schedule 3 and 4, animals which are not endangered are included. Hunting them is still not allowed, but the penalty of hurting their habitat or them would be less harsh than Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Examples: hyena, Himalayan rat, porcupine, etc. Schedule 5 includes animals which are not endangered in any way, and hunting them is allowed. For example, mice, rat, common crow, fruit bats, etc. Schedule 6, on the other hand, contains plants that are forbidden from cultivation for ordinary people. Examples: pitcher plant, blue vanda, red vanda, etc. This list is quite extensive and a PDF of the same is provided under Module 3 in the Moodle chapter. The second important part of the Act is the provision for protected areas, which are categorized into 5 types: sanctuaries, national parks, conservation forest reserves, community reserves, and tiger reserves. There are 553 sanctuaries currently present in India. These are naturally occurring areas where endangered species are protected from poaching, hunting, and predation. Animals are not bred for commercial exploitation here. These areas are protected so that all species of animals are protected from any sort of disturbance. Animals are not allowed to be captured or killed inside the sanctuaries. A wildlife sanctuary is declared so by a state government. Boundaries of the same can be altered only by a resolution in the state legislature. Very limited human activity is permitted inside a sanctuary. They are open to general public, but only escorted. Boundaries of the sanctuaries are generally not fixed and defined in a very strict manner. Biologists and researchers are permitted inside. The chief wildlife warden, who is the authority to control, manage, and maintain all sanctuaries, is the person who can permit people who are conducting research or tourism, photography, or any other transaction to get inside a sanctuary. So, if a person has to get into a sanctuary, a permission has to be given from the chief wildlife warden or someone authorized by the same person. There are more than 500 or there are more close to 600 sanctuaries in India. Some of the examples are Indian Wildlife Sanctuary, Run of Kutch, Gujarat, in the left, Vedathangal Bird Sanctuary in Tamil Nadu, Dandeli Wildlife Sanctuary, Karnataka, etc. There are plenty more. The second type of protected areas declared under the Act are national parks. Currently, there are 103 national parks present in India. A national park has more restrictions as compared to a wildlife sanctuary. These can also be declared by the state government by notification. But the alteration of boundaries of national park shall be made only on a resolution passed by a state legislature similar to a sanctuary. But their boundaries are more strictly bound. The landscape, flora, and fauna are all natural and nothing cultivated in national parks. Absolutely no human activity is allowed in national parks and no grazing is allowed. A sanctuary can be upgraded into a national park, whereas a national park cannot be downgraded into a sanctuary. India's oldest national park is the Jim Corbett National Park of Uttarakhand. Another very important national park of India is the Kaziranga National Park, where one-horned rhinoceros, which is quite endangered and very, very few in number, exist. Assam. The third type of protected area under this Act are the conservation reserves, which number 86 in India. The peculiarity of these kind of protected areas is that the local communities are involved in this conservation efforts. Again, declaration of an area as conservation reserve comes under the power of a state government. Usually, they are areas which are adjacent to sanctuaries and national parks. The fourth type of protected areas under this Act are community reserves, which number to 163. Again, a state government can declare any private or community land as a community reserve. this would also include consultation and involvement of the local community or an individual who has volunteered to conserve the wildlife. Lastly, the fifth type of protected areas under this Act are tiger reserves. Currently, India has 50 tiger reserves. As the name suggests, these are areas reserved for the protection and conservation of tigers in India. Some drawbacks of the Act are, of course, the gaps between the ideas and the implementation, especially because these kind of large conservation efforts require enormous amount of integration and coordination between various agencies. That has been lacking among the governmental agencies. The second drawback of the Act, again, is part of the execution area, that is the lack of institutional capacity. The financial and human resources are scarce in this particular area so that the Act can be executed to 100%. Also, there are some gaps in law for punishment, and some loopholes have always been found by people who has to be given the penalty for the disobedience to the law. Thank you.